Sure, I can start. Hey guys, or everyone who's watching. My name is Noemi Casada. I am an iOS engineer at Twitter. I just been doing iOS professionally for the past 2 years. Before that, I was a web developer for 5. I love everything about product design, engineering, entrepreneurship. In my free time after work, I'm working on my own app called Kindness Ritual, which helps combat the flow of negative self-talk through a habit of self-kindness.
Thanks, Naomi. I can go next. Hi, everyone. Really excited and happy to be here, and happy International Women's Day to everyone. My name is Simran. I work at Deloitte in Toronto, and I work in cybersecurity consulting. So I work in a risk advisory practice, specifically focused on cybersecurity strategy and architecture. So that basically means that we help our clients not get hacked and avoid bad guys. So it's really exciting, and I've been doing this for 3 years now, and happy to share my experiences and get to know everyone.
I don't know if Skye, it looks like you're off mute, but I'm not sure if you're going to go, so I'll go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Caitlin. I am an associate director at Protiviti, and I'm currently at the airport. And we're about to talk about work-life balance here, so excited to talk to you guys about that. But I've been in cybersecurity and data privacy and protection for almost 10 years now, and I'm really, really excited to be here with you guys and speak to you guys about some tips, tricks, and experiences that we've all had. So happy to be here. All right, so I guess I'll kind of start to be the moderator until Skye gets back on. So I think the first question we wanted to go through are what are some tips and tricks we have for women that are trying to enter into, the tech industry, STEM industry, cybersecurity industry, or even re-enter into the industry. So I don't know which one of you guys wants to go first. I can follow up after that.
I can start.
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I mean, it's not like entering the tech industry for me is mostly like getting into like maybe a software engineering role or something like that. I know that there's so much technologies out there, like, I don't know, like 3 ways of building websites and, a lot of ways like going iOS, even doing like React Native to build apps. And so I always try to tell people to just like focus on one thing at a time and become pretty good at it, like learn the basics and start building projects. I know there's so much out there and you're always bombarded with like different things that are coming out, but just kind of creating a focus can help you not only like create that niche that can help you get that job if you're trying to enter the tech industry, but it could also help you not feel so overwhelmed by everything that you're looking at.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree. I think it can be a little bit overwhelming, and there's a lot of opportunities and areas of focus. And I feel like when you're starting, you kind of feel like you have to know everything when in reality you don't. So A tip that I would have would be to really build your network and try to talk to as many people who are doing something similar or maybe exactly what you want to do, and talk to them and see what their journey is and how they got there. And that really helps in figuring out exactly what you need to do. And then you also have someone to lean on in case you get lost along the way, and you can always ask some questions. So definitely build a network, find some mentors. I think that's the best thing.
Yep, of course. Right when I try to talk, I always get the announcements. But I agree with you both. I think there's so much out there that a lot of times we call it over-analysis paralysis. We're kind of just like stunned with what to do and where to start, so we don't start at all. And I feel like for me specifically as a woman, a lot of times I'm like, oh, I don't know, I don't have the skills to do that, or I don't have this, and I'm just gonna not do it, or I'll do it later. And I always say, like, action is a lot better than just sitting and waiting and thinking. And like, even what we were saying is action of finding a mentor, action of like starting to do those trainings, finding those like online classes if you need to. Like, a lot of times those aren't even necessary, but finding out ways that you can show you're passionate about the certain areas that you're trying to go into is key. And finding out ways that you can build your resume, and then build your network. I think those are the really like key things. So I think action, and just knowing that you are in the same boat as everyone else, that no one else is as worthy as you. So keep working hard and just jump in. And I see we have Skye now. I don't know, Skye, if it's working for you. If not, I can keep asking the question.
Hey, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. So let's see. No, I've actually, we're tech professionals here. So, I'm, I got my little tech challenge there, but I'm back in. Cool. Yeah. So my name is Skye Goodrich, and I worked for Helm as a consulting director for 2+ years. I'm just backing up to my intro, and I've worked for Exxon, Thomson Reuters, Los Alamos National Labs, government, healthcare, others. Got 2 dogs, play guitar, etc. So awesome. It's very good to join. All right. So where are we exactly?
We just went through the first question of what our advice is to enter or re-enter into tech. Yep.
Awesome.
So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah.
So,
let me go ahead and
go for it.
comment. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to share too, like in terms of like finding support and building a community so you can kind of be around like-minded people. Even like before I worked at Twitter, I always told people that they should create a Twitter. I felt like that was like a really great way to find support from others. And I've also seen that finding jobs has been like a thing there. Like, I think you can find people from that team. For example, like if Apple was building like is trying to hire someone for their notes app or a particular, you will see people from that team posting the job. So then you have like kind of like that direct connection, and can help you kind of see that, like for people see that resume and get those opportunities, and potentially get a referral, and then that can really help you with landing a job.
Wonderful. Anyone else have a comment about this particular question? Like tips you would give women to like entering the tech industry? I would say just, don't feel that you're any less because you're a woman. Don't be afraid to speak up. Don't feel you're any less intelligent or less capable. And it's okay to speak your mind and give your opinion and be heard. Excellent. Well, let's just move to the next question. So what would you say is your most valuable skill that you've learned that's helped you succeed in the tech field? Anyone want to
I can go
jump in on that one?
So,
sure.
Yeah. Too late. So I think the biggest skill for me, and I think for a lot of people, is that curiosity and passionate about learning. So hopefully you guys can hear me. And I think this technology and everything is constantly changing. And even in my job, like I've been in it for, like I said, almost 10 years, and I keep like, it changes honestly every couple of weeks. And so having that curiosity and like passion about learning and continuing to grow and continuing to help people is like really, really important.
So, sounds great. Simran?
Yeah, so valuable skills, I guess there's two different types of skills. It could be categorized as like a technical skill or more of a soft skill, and I'll kind of speak to both. Technical skills, it might seem silly, but like being a consultant, honestly learning how to properly use Excel and PowerPoint and all of those software tools has been really, really helpful. And I think it's just like the basics foundation that at least in my field, I need to know. But then, to build on top of that, it's going to be different for everyone. So it's kind of like the skills that you need in your toolbox to do what you want to set out to do. So for me, it's kind of focused on security and architecture. And in order to do that, I kind of talked to a bunch of people and who were kind of specialized in that area. And they told me, there's this training that you can take. So I took the training, and I think that kind of gave me maybe not necessarily the tools, but at least kind of the confidence to walk into a room and know what I'm talking about. And I think that is a really valuable skill to have. You kind of have to figure out, where do I get my confidence from, and what do I need to be able to be successful, and then try to build onto that. So for me, it was really having the knowledge to know what I'm talking about in certain situations. So I guess that would be like more of the technical skills, and then soft skills, communication skills, I think are really important. And especially as a consultant, when you're talking to clients and vendors and other partners in the firm, being able to articulate what you're saying and get your point across in a very direct, distinct way, I think has been a very valuable skill that I've learned.
I just want to quickly jump in on that.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I got a call. I wanted to quickly jump in on that because I do agree that like having that confidence to know that like what you're talking about and like, stand in front of a room is super important, but also knowing that you don't need to know everything. And because that's something I learned like a hard way. I was always scared, like what happens if they ask me a question that I don't know? And it's pretty easy. All you have to do is say, that's a great question. Let me get back to you. I want to confirm that I know the right answer and get you the right answer. But you don't have to know everything in order for you to just jump in and start taking initiative and taking that leadership. Yes, you have to have the confidence to take that leadership, but know that you don't need to be like fully perfect and know every little thing before you start, because otherwise you're never going to start. So I totally agree with the confidence thing, but just know you don't need to know everything.
Exactly. I don't think you can know everything, but if you know like who to go to or where to get the information, definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely about leveraging. Then again, it's about like having that network and leveraging your team, and knowing who to reach out to and talk to and be like, hey, I'm not an expert in this area, but I do know someone who is, and I can connect you with them, or I can find out myself and get back to you. So for sure.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I agree with that. I had two skills too. One was soft skill, and that was communication as well, like being able to communicate boundaries, express the type of help that you need. One of the things that I find myself doing a lot is being very self-conscious about when I'm going to share something, if I'm making any assumptions, or if I'm providing enough context to a person regarding a situation so that they can make that decision, or I guess get the help that I need. Sometimes I find that a lot of my thoughts are not always complete when I speak about them or communicate with others. So just taking a moment to just reread that message that I'm trying to send, to make sure that the person knows exactly where I'm standing, or where I'm standing, what I need, and or what I'm trying to get out of. That's very valuable. In terms of like tech skills, or more like hard skills based on the job, staying on top of new technology. I'm not saying like jump ship. I'm not saying like abandon like everything you've known before and like go to Web3 or something. I'm saying like even in whatever you're studying, like JavaScript or Swift, there's always new things coming out every year, and like just being on top of that, kind of like learning the new stuff that are coming up, playing around with this new frameworks and the new things that the other developers kind of introduce is really great to keep your skills up to date. And the second one is about learning how to problem solve. Like, I feel like a lot of people get kind of bogged down on the syntax. Like, I don't know how to, I don't know, create an array of data or something like that. And instead of focusing on that, they should be trying to focus on, okay, I have this problem. How can I break it into smaller pieces and then solve those pieces individually? I think that's like a really great skill, because at the end of the day, engineers are paid to solve problems, and we just do them with code sometimes. So being able to kind of just practice that is a really great, valuable skill.
Yeah, I think it's important not to get stuck. It's very easy to kind of go down a list of items and say, here's my procedure, 1 through 10. But it's harder, like, what would happen if you get stuck on a particular item? How do you think outside the box and get past that, on your own, and not just stop, what I'm saying? Yeah, very good. I would say there's nothing really magical to the tech industry. People are, kind of afraid of it, but it's just like I've said before, it's just kind of like another language that you need to learn, servers and cloud and, different things. And you need to kind of get plugged into that. And I like getting the latest training, definitely. Anyone else on that, or we'll move on? Pardon, today we're having some audio problems, but we're gonna get through it. So how do you achieve a work-life balance? Anyone want to comment on that, and then I'll comment?
I guess I can start, considering I'm sitting at the airport with a cat and about to move to Miami. I think a work-life balance is, I used to think it was like never, because I did consulting I still do consulting, and I never thought it was like a thing that you had control over. I thought it was just like whoever you worked for and the company you worked for really had control over your work-life balance. But then I've completely flipped the script recently, because work-life balance, in my opinion, is all on how you set your boundaries at work. Letting people know and being very direct with what's important in your life and what you need to make and what you don't need to make. Sorry about the announcement again. But I think that you're able to have a life if you are setting the correct boundaries. And I think it's really important to have a life outside of work too, because you do get burnt out. I was working crazy hours for the first 3 years of my consulting life, and I got extremely burnt out and I almost wanted to quit. And I think learning how to set those work-life boundaries and learning to work with people, and again, being direct and telling people what you need, is really important. Like even setting, timelines of like, I don't get on before 6 a.m. and I don't leave, or I get off at 2 p.m. because I need to pick up my kids, or I need to take a flight, or just like making sure that you're communicating that ahead of time and telling them that what you need, because it also depends on the company, right? And I think a couple other people will hit on this, which I'll let them hit on this, but it really depends also on who you work with and how flexible they are and the type of company you work with, right? Because usually startups, they're really fast paced and agile, and you have to kind of move with them. It's harder to have that flexibility, but there's other companies too. So it's really gauging who you're working for, where you're working, and the type of lifestyle. And the one last tip I have is, when you go through interviews, you really need to ask, because this is an important thing. You need to ask about work-life balance and what they do outside of work, and see how it is. Because if they say there's not any, like, I would strongly recommend maybe not going to that company unless you want to do that. So just asking, because people are going to be really pretty transparent with you. When people ask me about work-life balance, when I do interviews, I'm very, very transparent with them. So.
Gotcha. Some really great advice. My advice on that, work-life balance is, stop is the best advice. Like, stop at the end of the day and, kind of walk away from that, because I think you could probably work 24 hours a day, and, you've got to have your own home life as well. And same for weekends. I would say too, I've worked remotely for 15 years, so it's hard to, especially when you work remote, it's hard to just set that boundary, but you've got to. I would say too, what else? Anyone else on that one?
I would agree with Caitlin. I think it's really about setting boundaries. And I see there's a question in the chat. It says, how are you are you finding it harder to set boundaries post-COVID, given there's been so much remote work, or companies that are starting to go back to the office? So I think it is kind of a little bit harder because you're at work. I mean, you're at home and your home is your office, and you could technically just keep working. But I think it's really on you to say like, hey, these are my working hours. And I've seen people even put it in their calendars, like they block off a certain amount of time and it says I am out of office. So people know and they're aware. And something that a lot of leaders have done as well is, they recognize that everyone has different working hours. So some people like working in the morning and in the evenings, and then, in between they have a lot of stuff to do, whereas other people have more traditional hours. So they even put in their email a little line that says, these are my working hours. However, they may not be yours. So if there's, if your boss is sending you an email at like 7 p.m. and they're just letting you know, hey, I'm sending you this now because it's convenient for me, but you don't have to respond right away. You don't have to respond at this time. So I think that's something that's, something that I find is really great that a lot of leaders have been doing. So yeah, and it just goes back to working for companies and for teams that get that, and they get your boundaries and they're supportive of it. And they realize that this is a different climate that we're working in, and they're trying to accommodate towards that.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I've noticed certain companies changing how they work. I guess because we were in COVID and like post-COVID. But I do think like if you're seeing that your company, even after you communicate those boundaries, or they have like a negative connotation of taking time off or going and picking up your kids or anything like that, maybe it's time to question if it's time to move to a company that aligns with the values that you want for your life. A company that respects rest and wants you to have some sort of balance. I think at the end of the day, like I think it's more about work-life harmony, like where you focus your energy than like work-life balance. You want to be able to integrate work and life in a great way, especially moving forward in post-COVID. And I think, again, if your values are changing or your life is kind of changing and your job is kind of not accommodating, maybe it's time to ask yourself those questions. I do see though, like leadership, if leaders are not taking their vacation or they're canceling their vacation or sending emails super late at night, it kind of sends, in my opinion, kind of like a wrong message to people who are underneath them about like, that's your expectations, that you should also be answering emails late at night, that you should, like maybe not take time off or request, like I need a rest day because I'm really tired or mentally drained. So if you're someone who's like in a leadership position, it's really great if you could follow by example and being able to kind of do that. One thing that we do at my company right now is like scheduling messages. Like Google has the ability to schedule emails at the time where, like your coworkers or the people you're working with are, like I think Slack has that particular feature. If you're off, like you want like to take your vacation, there's auto reply emails for Google as well that you can say, hey, I'm out of the office until this date. It'll take me about 2 to 3 days to be able to answer your messages. If you have any emergencies, here's the contact information for this person who can help you, or like the company phone number. Another thing too, like in terms of like creating like rituals around your starting and ending of your days, like ending your days might be booking your time, right? Or taking a walk at the end of the day, and that kind of signifies ending. And things in the morning could also be like, I don't know, cleaning up your inbox and figuring out your priorities for the day. Like these are really good ways. But I think like overall, just trying to limit the distractions when you're at work, right? Like, so if you're at work, you're present at work. And if you're at home, you're present at home. Like, don't take those responsibilities, especially when, like, I work from home now. And like, it's really important for me to have those kind of rituals and like try to limit those distractions, because if not, like, I think I can just go to my room, open up my computer, and work is there. And it's not always healthy.
Yeah, I think like you said, starting and ending times is very important. Blocking time off. I know a lot of people use that. Like maybe at the start of the day, you can block like a meeting in there, and then people cannot schedule on that meeting, or even lunchtime. You might want to block off a lunch, or even like a direct report to me might say, hey, Skye, I've got, I want to have this time off during the day. And I've even blocked that person's time off on my calendar, just so I know when they're, not to be scheduled. So it's just kind of working together, for that kind of balance that you really need. So we've got a new question here. Let me go ahead and ask this and we can go through it. So how do you all stay on top of the latest tech trends? Whoever wants to jump in on that one.
So I'm going to jump in, but I just want to say I actually have to jump off as we're boarding now. But I just connect with me on LinkedIn if you guys are here. I really appreciate it. I'm so sorry I have to jump off. If you guys have any more questions, yeah, again, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. And I'm so happy to be here. Happy International Women's Day. And these ladies will answer all the questions amazingly. So thank you guys so much. Have a great one. Happy International Women's Day. Bye, guys.
Thank you very much.
I can answer that question. Usually, for my technology, because I do iOS development, Apple hosts a yearly conference called WWDC, where they introduce like the new technologies that are coming up. It's usually a 1 week long type of event, where the first one's like some sort of like conference showing all like the new tech that's mostly like open for like the public, and then the entire week has like sessions all around, like full days of sessions from Apple engineers, kind of just going through different concepts. Because that's really important to my career, I try to take that week as something that, like focus half of my day into doing. And also my job allows us to do that, like take that really seriously. In terms of finding, like keeping up with new trends, I'm always like, again, on Twitter, following people who are ahead of me. Like there's a lot of like tech personalities on there that are like talking about Web3, and I see new courses that are coming up that I find interesting, and I'm just like reading about it, or participating in the conversation or asking questions, and at least that helps me kind of find the time and to learn and stay on top of these new trends and new things.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's an abundance of knowledge out there, like too much sometimes. So it's really kind of narrowing down, like, what am I interested in learning about? Like, I want to know everything, but I don't have the time to like learn everything. So it's kind of also prioritizing a little bit, like taking actually time out of your day to read and learn about things. And I like doing this in the morning. So in the morning, I like browsing websites like CyberWire, which has like a lot of cyber tech stuff, or like TechCrunch. And again, I also follow people on Twitter, and even these days I've been getting a lot of information on TikTok, which is interesting as well. A lot of people I follow on there. So there's so many resources out there. It's just kind of finding and prioritizing which time of the day that you want to learn about these things. And if you're really passionate and interested in it, you can even dive deeper and dig deeper, like read books about things, watch videos. So there's so much you could do. I think it just comes down to like passion and prioritizing your time.
Sounds good. Appreciate that. Yeah, I like your ideas about, going to these different websites, trying to stay on top of it. I just have a, real interest, in that, reading up on the latest things. And I think too, if I hear about a new thing, then, we have internal trainers here, and I'll ask them if they can put on a class for others here, because I think other people might be interested in the very same thing, whether it's Azure or, Snowflake, whatever it is. So very good. Let me ask you, is there anything that you've experienced in your career that you typically just don't talk about? Anything like that that you all want to mention?
So you mean talked about like as in it's like a niche area, or it's not?
I think something that's just kind of understood, as a woman, but something you don't discuss openly.
Hmm.
And I can give you an example. I think, like, one example might be like there's a kind of a negative connotation. Say if a woman speaks up and makes her voice heard, might kind of be a negative. But I don't see it that way. But I'm just saying, things that are kind of not spoken about. But I feel that women, we're natural communicators, and I think we're very very good at it. It's one of our big strengths. So. And I think there's this idea that women aren't as technical as men, and I just don't buy that one either. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I have never experienced anything where I felt like I couldn't speak up. I think things have been changing a lot recently. Towards a good way, in a good way that people, everyone feels more included, at least where I work, and people are given the opportunity to speak up. But I think if anyone is ever in a position where they're not supported or feel that way, I think it's just doing it anyways and taking that risk. And I think that you kind of have to create a very good relationship with yourself and have that kind of build that inner confidence, in order to speak up in meetings and have your opinion voiced. And I think in the beginning, it's definitely very scary, and it might even be really hard to do. But it really comes with practice. And there was actually a panel that I was listening in on previously where the lady was talking, and she said that she had a fear of speaking out in meetings. And so she made it a priority that in every meeting she was going to say at least one thing, even if it was just, reiterating something that somebody else had said or a very minor comment here and there. That was her way of kind of working up the courage and the confidence to speak up in meetings. So I thought that was very interesting. And I definitely felt like that when I first started, because I was very young. I started working when I was like 20, 22. So when I first started, I was like, I don't know anything. I'm new. They don't want to hear what I have to say. And that was kind of my mindset. But then I thought, like, I'm here for a reason, and I do have things to contribute. So it's kind of slowly getting comfortable with speaking out and speaking up.
Yeah, it's like you get on these, those kinds of calls, at first when you're younger, and you feel like, this thing, it's in my mind, but it's not important, and then you don't say it, and then the meeting's over, and you're like, oh, I didn't say it, I didn't get heard, and it, if you can just say what's on your mind, it is important, and other people hear you, and they think, hey, this is the same question, maybe I had, but I just didn't speak up. So that is very important.
Yeah.
I think from
Anyone else
my
on that topic?
experience,
Yeah, go ahead.
I've actually had, I don't want to say ideas stolen, but mostly like ignored and dismissed, and not taken seriously until spoken or when it comes from a man. This happened to me multiple times. Actually, it was something I never expected it to be. I was really freely, I was part of a company that was really open and loved the ideas, and I was always felt like I could speak up. But nothing ever, it felt like I had to put on more effort, like do 10 times more of the research, really sell the why we should be doing this. But then sometimes if it came from a man, like all of those hurdles seemed like just like less work. They would just say something and people would kind of just agree with it, or go with it or explore the opportunity. That was something that really was really hard for me. I actually approached my manager, my boss at that time, and I kind of voiced my concern on what I was seeing, and he was not aware, like he didn't realize what was happening. And I think just having that conversation of like, hey, I'm sharing something, why is it that my voice isn't being heard? And then sharing those examples of like that experience that I had helped him be more aware and conscious of when he's doing it, and be giving proper credit, or even putting more effort and listening to those ideas after. But it was something that I felt very disheartening to have experienced.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say it's very unfortunate that that still happens. And yeah, it does feel like sometimes that you have to do double the amount of work to just be taken seriously. And yeah, I've never had an experience like that before where it was just so clear, but I do find that it happens in very small, like more subtle ways. So yeah.
You know, one question from the chat is the salary issue. So how do y'all feel about that? Like, do you feel that there's still an issue with, say, women getting paid less than men? Is that still an issue, or how do you feel on that?
I think just minorities sometimes. One thing that I saw a lot was people who speak two languages, are not strong or have like a really strong accent, tend to find difficulties being able to have a higher salary range than others whose English is much better. I've seen that a lot, and it also depends on like companies and their size. But I think if we were more open about like the salary ranges that we had in between companies and the roles, like we could kind of help each other out, kind of seeing that. But there's some companies that won't ever match, like, you know, other companies' salaries, and it's important to know that. It might be just because of the financial burden and or something like that, and that I don't know, it just means that it's time to maybe look for another job that kind of has that kind can support that kind of salary range. But I do think there's still probably some sort of you know, issue with salary.
Yeah, and I hope that the industry is changing and that we're becoming more closer to pay equity. I don't think it's quite there yet. And there's a lot of different reasons why people think this might happen. And one theory that I've heard of is actually that women tend to, you know, grow within their career at the same rate as men. And then at a certain time, if, you know, they want to start a family and they have to go on maternity leave, it's at that point where things kind of get like shifted, because they might be on leave for a while, whereas someone who started at the same time that they did are able to kind of progress. And then when they come back, there's kind of like a shift. So I think that there needs to be a little bit more support from organizations for people or for women who do decide to go on maternity leave, to make sure that when they come back, they're actually still supported and they are able to upskill and they have the support and the education and everything that they need to kind of get back on their feet. So I think that's something that a lot of organizations can be a little bit better at.
Sounds good. I think it has gotten better. So how do y'all feel about just the tech industry in general? How's it changed over the years since you've started? Like, what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen?
I guess in my perspective, just seeing more women in my teams, that's like the biggest one that I've seen, like being able to see, like before, I think when I started, I was the only women engineer. And I mean, I was already used to that going through school, but just being able to see more of that representation in the team and people that you work with has been like one of the biggest things too. And I don't know, it just feels different. I don't know if it's like the way that the empathy, or I don't know, there's something in the air, the way we speak to one another, the issues that are being brought up, you know, throughout all these years that I've been in tech is different. It just feels different. I think a lot of men have been like this whole like mansplaining or like dealing with all these things is kind of more out in the open and people talk about it more. So it's just I see that a lot of more issues are being brought up front and more like instead of being the only women engineer on the team, I have 2 or 3 and from diverse backgrounds. And that's really awesome to see.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And I think it also is a little bit of changing the way that you typically think about someone who works in tech, right? You think, oh, they're they're probably an engineer or have like some kind of tech background, and that's the only way that you can get into tech. But I've seen that a lot of the tech industry has opened themselves up to people from very diverse experiences and diverse backgrounds. Like even myself, for example, my background is in business and technology, so I didn't just focus on like just engineering or just tech. I have like a pretty strong business background as well, and I think a lot of the tech industry is looking for people who have different backgrounds. Like maybe if you kind of have a medical background or a law degree, or in some other political science or something, they're finding more interesting ways of how to incorporate people from a variety of different backgrounds into tech, because the technical part can always be taught, right? Like you can always be taught how to program or code, or how to learn how to use a new application. But it's kind of those soft skills or those communication skills that sometimes can't be taught. And it's like the people who have that experience, it takes a little bit longer to build that experience. So it's kind of more beneficial for a company to say, hey, you have a great depth and knowledge in like biotech or something, or it's this other health science, and we can train you on the software, and we really value the personal skills that you have, so let's bring you on. So that's kind of how I've seen that the tech industry has changed.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I was thinking about the different backgrounds, because I've seen a lot of people, like my background's computer science, but there's a lot of people like that have like insurance or psychology or medical, or just all different backgrounds that have come over here, and I think tech crosses all. Tech is in everything now, so I think that's part of the reason. And I see it's tech has become more remote. It's become more cloud-based. It's become more concerned about work-life balance, and I think you can do tech from anywhere, and you can do it anywhere in the world. Like you can connect from where you are anywhere else in the world. So it's really an amazing industry, I feel. All right, I think we're getting to the end of our questions here. Let me check the chat. Anything else anyone wants to add?
I see there's one more.
Yeah, I'm just looking through the list too. There's this one about are there any opportunities for people coming from different backgrounds, which I think is really close to kind of what we were just talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak at least from a cybersecurity lens. I work a lot with a lot of lawyers, and that's really interesting because people who have legal backgrounds are actually the perfect people who can speak to things like data protection and privacy, because they have that kind of like human and more legal lens towards it, and they help us translate that into how does that look like for cybersecurity requirements. How should applications and softwares be set up so that we're protecting people's data and privacy and etc. So that's kind of one area. And then, the same for cybersecurity, like health sciences, where we're looking at people's sensitive like health information or personal health information, and what are all the different use cases for that. So I think it's just like finding areas that whatever background that you have, and how can it be applied to different technologies, and how can you really sell the skills that you have and say, hey, you know how to do this thing really well, but I have this knowledge and this is how it can be beneficial to you.
Yeah,
I think it
agree
does.
with that.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I agree with that. One thing is like, just you don't have to know how to code or have like a very technical skill to be in tech. There's so many other I guess, skills and types of jobs that don't require you writing a line of code, but, like have been able to use that kind of industry knowledge can really help. One of the things like that I've seen a lot is people who are like doing more like project management or being consultants based on their skills. So for example, if you're into like, we've been talking about like the medical industry, but if you can technically help companies who are building new software, if you're like a doctor trying to build the software for patients or for research or something like that, their background can be very beneficial for any company trying to build like apps or software around health, or that applies to any other industry as well.
Very good. Yeah, I was thinking about, I've seen it in healthcare, oil and gas, government. And we also serve the legal industry here. So we're saying here, I work with lawyers almost every day. And it seems like I've said, any kind of industry there's a tech element to all of it. Now it's all across, it's not just one thing. All right, well, sounds good. I think we're kind of wrapping up here. If there's nothing else, we'll just go ahead and wrap it up. I just want to say thank you to everyone that's participated. You've been awesome and had so many good comments and things to add here. I really appreciate it.
It was great being here. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Okay, well, thank you very much then. We'll just wrap it up. Thanks to everyone.
Bye, everyone.